Hey everyone, Sheldon here, and I know it's been a while since I've made a video. So the next few videos you guys are going to see coming out are just projects I've been working on during that time a little bit. You might remember this one. This is the paper single shot pistol. It's like the version 2.0 basically. It's more updated than the original one that I worked on, which it worked pretty well. It just it wasn't very comfortable. It was a little small. This one, well, here's a template right here. It's actually, the shape of it is kind of based off of a cap gun that I got at the store, you know, a few years ago. So it fits more ergonomically, and I made the handle, the grip, longer, so you know it's easier to hold on to like that. And if you guys don't remember this project, or you don't remember seeing it, it's because I didn't actually put videos of it on YouTube. I was just live streaming me working on it on Twitch, so you may have, you know, a vague memory of it. It's something I, you know, kind of was working on and then put it down, but you know, I'm literally in the middle of moving out, so things are a little bit more complicated that way. But I can still show you the innards and how they work a little bit. The side plate just comes off like this, and I'll explain this cutout in a little bit. So this is what it looks like inside, and you can see probably what I was going for here. The barrel is square using a super glue and baking soda method, and the hammer just moves like this, and it's a little hard to show when it's pinned down like this, but basically there's going to be a spring right here, which I lost naturally, as one does, but it's basically part of a lighter spring, and that will fit pushing from there to there. And this side plate has a little cutout here that allows this trigger bar to move freely. And what I mean by the trigger bar moving freely, I basically mean just in a linear path between these two bars right there. So the side plate goes over those two bars, sort of like that. It's kind of hard to tell. I mean, these pins are in the way right now, but I'll show you in a sec. But basically that just keeps it flat and prevents the trigger bar from moving out. But since I kind of want to take it out to show you, that is how it works. It's just a nail cut down. The diameter is a little small. I might end up making the whole trigger bar out of metal just to keep everything a little bit stronger. It's got the paper clip reinforcement, but I'm kind of going for something more durable. So I am just gonna put the trigger bar here and just show you a little bit how the mechanism works. So it's very simple. Basically, there will be constant spring tension pulling this direction. So I'm actually going to drill a hole right there. You can see a little bit of where I started drilling the pilot hole, and put sort of like a hook shape of the metal wire, and just attach an extension spring going from that hook to the pole that is in the hammer right there. This pin goes all the way down through that hole, so it can hook on right there, an extension spring or a rubber band or several to make it strong. And with this trigger spring in there, the trigger will be pushing against the hammer like that, and obviously it's going a little bit off center because the other side plate isn't on there to keep it in the right place, but that will push there, and you'll cock back the hammer and it'll lock in that little notch right there, and then the hammer won't be able to go forward. And then when you pull the trigger, which I should be doing it from here so it shows it better, that notch is holding the tip of the trigger right there at the top, just moves out of the way of that notch, and then the hammer goes forward. So that's how it cocks back, and then the hammer can't move, and then when you pull the trigger, that moves out of the way, and this can go up. So it's a very simple design, like I said. And I guess before I put the side plate on there, I'm just going to show you this squared off barrel a little bit more in depth. So zoom in a little bit here, and you can really see that super glue and baking soda that makes that square shape. This was a cylinder, now it's not. So it will just make the whole thing mesh together a little bit better. So I'm just gonna put the side plate on here. And like I said, that cutout goes over those two bars like that. And the pins, they're a little crooked because they're not the final pins, but those line up through the holes and everything should work better. And I just lined up the pins and pushed them through all the way, so you know, everything moves like it should. And I can cock the hammer back, you can hear that, and then it won't go forward, and then pull the trigger and now it can. So I'm just going to take this rubber band just to represent how the spring is going to work. So that pin is longer than it needs to be right now, but it goes all the way down through, like I said, and just crosses through the center of that hole right there. So by pulling on that, it basically does the same thing that it will when the rubber band or the spring is inside there. And since there's no trigger spring in there right now, like this can just move around, I kind of have to move it with my finger for now for demonstration purposes. So I'm just going to cock the hammer back, and I'm pushing on the back of the trigger at the same time, and it locks into place. Now the hammer is cocked back until I pull the trigger and move it out of the way of that little notch that you guys saw earlier. So just like that. So it's pretty simple, just locks there, and then there you go. So now it's just going to be a matter of finding the right springs for this. I guess I didn't show you this side yet. It looks the same, it's just not a removable plate. You can see all the tool marks from the pliers and stuff. And this is just a big block of paper. But I'm just going to need to find a decent spring for the trigger, which it was working before. I'm just going to stick with a lighter spring. It doesn't need to be super strong, but the hammer needs to be strong enough to activate the homemade primer. And if you guys have been following my channel for a while, you can, you know, see these layers stacked up like this. This is just made of multiple 16-layer pieces to get to the thickness of this part, not including this plate right there, the side plate. So all I did was just take this part out of a template piece, just copied it and then cut it out, and then stacked up that piece multiple times until I got to that thickness. And stuff like the barrel in general, that was pretty easy to make. It's just wrapping paper around the correct diameter, which I'm trying to chamber this to a 45. This isn't a real 45, this is a snap cap for gun testing, but I want it to be this diameter, but just a homemade paper cartridge. I'm not going to put an actual 45 in here because, well, it'll blow up and probably blow up my hands, so no thanks. So for this project in particular, I'm just going to keep putting up some videos about it until it's done, and then I'll probably end up making a tutorial. It's kind of too late to start a tutorial because this is basically almost done. It just needs to be cleaned up quite a bit as it's really rough. It's also a little yellow because, first of all, it's old, but it's made using wood glue and Elmer's glue and super glue. So just simple things like that. I'm just gonna clean it all up, get it looking nice, and film a video, you know, test firing it and seeing how it goes. It just generally feels so much more comfortable than the first model I made. So just stuff like touching up this area, filling up the transition period between the trigger guard and the grip, get that nice and smooth, get this all matched up together so it's not like running a pencil across, well, the side of a really uneven stacked up book, something like that. That's the best way to describe it. So that's basically it for this project in particular, at least where it is right now. So you'll be seeing some update videos. I guess this is update 1 because I haven't properly posted one yet. I'm predicting maybe 2 or 3 more videos showing the actual progress of this, but the next videos you guys are going to see are other projects that I've been working on over the period of time I've been gone. So I'm just going to show you guys a couple things really quick that I have kind of shown on Instagram, but you haven't really seen on YouTube. They're kind of too small to make a full video on, but I am going to make a tutorial on them, which is more in depth than actually just showing how they function. I showed this project on Instagram, at least the function of it, so I'm just going to show you how it works. Basically, it's like a wrist launcher thing, and you just put it on your wrist like this and secure it with the strap. It looks not really like a watch, but it's still kind of cool. I think it was just a cool little thing to mess around with. So you just take something like a metal rod or a toothpick or a matchstick. They'll all work pretty well. And I'll zoom in so it's not like super bright. So basically you just take a pin of some sort. This is just like a piece of a thick paper clip, and you need to push it in until there's a little click, or else it won't actually cock back. So you just kind of do that, and now that's in the cock back position, and then you just move this back to where it was, and it will launch the piece of wire or whatever you're shooting like that. So it's something kind of fun to play with. And how it works is pretty stupidly simple. You just take this little pin out, which has a band of paper around the top just to kind of give it more of a knob shape. And this lid comes off, and it's just a miniature clothespin. And that's all it is. You just take your wire and you push it down in there, and that little piece of the wire right there, I'm talking about this actual wire, not this one, I should specify that, that moves back and then locks behind that little step right there. And now this is loaded basically because it's spring tension. And this little pin basically just goes through that hole, but that's with the lid on there. I mean, showing it like this, you can just move it out of the way, just push it back, and it launches the pin, which I'm gonna have to find that, so that's fun. So I'm just putting it at the end of this video just to show you that's how it functions. It's very simple, but I will make a tutorial video on it, and I've actually been working on a stronger version of it, which is using a full-size clothespin. And this will be the version that I would be showing you guys how to make. Very simple, same concept, but this is a full clothespin in here. It's just a really tiny one, and then this one is just cut off to get rid of that excess material. So this one can actually hold a bigger diameter wire or a nail, not the pointy end of a nail. You don't want to do that unless you're shooting apples or something, but that just goes back the same way, just locks in place, and this one's a lot more powerful. Yeah, like that's pretty strong right there just for a clothespin. So these are fun to make, and I figured I'd just make some videos on them soon, showing how to make them, because it's a pretty good introductory project if you're interested in paper crafting or just crafting in general. You can start off with something like this or something like this, which it might look intimidating, but once I break it down and actually show you guys how to do it, it's really pretty simple. And with that, I'm just kind of talking to the people who maybe recently subscribed here, or you've seen some of these projects but never actually tried them, and maybe you want to but you don't know where to start. These are pretty easy to make. Things like this, you know, that use the basic principles of making a cylinder and a flat piece, and maybe a little bit more of a complicated part right there, but just a good place to start. And as for you guys who've been subscribed for a long time, or messaging me or commenting, just keeping in touch in general, I guess, I really appreciate you guys, and I appreciate the patience you have with me. And also I have a good feeling about this channel and where it's going to go in the future. I plan on showing you plenty of things that won't even all just be paper. It's just going to be a whole other creative avenue of new things, and I'm hoping you guys will join me on the journey for that. But you guys are still going to see plenty of paper stuff. Trust me on that. I'm going to keep this hobby going for as long as I can. And I've even been experimenting with paper on a milling machine. This just happens to be colored paper because I wanted to see how the tool affected the layers. And you can see that finish with minimal sandpaper, I mean, that's just the tool cutting. That's pretty good. And that just opens up a whole new huge folder of ideas for me. So yeah, you can mill paper apparently on a milling machine. But I'll get into that in a whole other video. It deserves its own video because it's so interesting how you can do this with paper on a milling machine, and I'm just finding this out now. But anyway, that's it for this video, you guys. Thanks for watching, and if you have any questions, feel free to ask in the comment section below or in a personal message, and be sure to subscribe if you'd like to see all the latest updates, and I'll see you guys soon.